I screamed as loud as I did when I was on the toilet the other day and a giant house spider crawled up my leg. That is not a lie. I couldn't sleep afterwards. I was awake all night and my heart was racing. It was messed up. Hi, you're watching This Brand Geek, and the Apple Wonderlust event just finished. And as promised, here I am making a video about it, even though every other big YouTuber in the world has got their video out within like an hour and a half of the event finishing, and here I am at midnight starting to film, because I don't have a team of 20 people helping me. Another quick note, I did promise to publish my comprehensive notes like I normally do. I tried to post them on X or Twitter this time, but they went on for about 10,000 characters and it wouldn't fit. So I've put them on Facebook and I've included a link in the video description. Don't worry, you don't need a Facebook account to read them. I know some people just don't like Facebook, but you can read them there. So click the link in the description to see my comprehensive notes. And honestly, this event has taken over my life recently. I went for a shower just before the event started and my wife said,
"How long are you going to be in the shower?"
And I said, I don't know, 10 minutes, maybe 15. And my brain said Pro Max. Another really quick note, almost every leak was true. So if you saw my other video yesterday or the day before, which was the leaks roundup for the 15 series of phones, almost every leak was true. There were a few small surprises here and there, and one really big surprise for me in particular, which we'll get into later. But generally speaking, almost every leak was true. Okay, so getting right into it. Firstly, there will be a new Apple Watch Series 9 and an Apple Watch Ultra 2. Both will feature the new S9 SIP, that means system in package, now you know. And honestly, there's not really much else to report about these new Apple Watches. And it's not really that exciting. There is a new pinch gesture, which allows you to control the Apple Watch. So if you want to answer a call, you just double tap. They're calling it the double tap. And I think it's really good. So if you have your hands full and you want to answer a call and someone's calling and you see it on your Apple Watch, you can just go like this and it'll answer. I don't know why I'm trying it. It doesn't work on a Series 3, but it is kind of worrying for society as we're all going to be walking around doing this in public like a bunch of crab people. The Series 9 comes in pink, starlight, silver, midnight, and product red, which are made of aluminium. Yes, that's how you say that word. Or if you're a baller, you can go with stainless steel, which comes in gold, silver, or graphite. The Series 9 starts at $399 in the US. I'll put the UK prices on the screen now. And the Ultra 2 starts at $799. Pre-orders go live today for both of them, and they both release on September 22nd, as predicted by me in the other video. After these Apple Watch announcements, the event got a little bit weird. They had Mother Nature come to their offices and she grilled Tim Cook and co about their carbon footprint plans and all that sort of thing. It was kind of impressive watching it. Apple's planted literal forests, not just a few trees, forests, and they want to be net zero by 2030, and a lot of their products are already net zero, like the Apple Watch Series 9 and the Ultra 2, which I think is really cool and commendable. I think it's great. They also announced that they're not using real leather anymore, so no more leather watch straps and no more leather iPhone cases, and that starts today. That makes the Hindu in me very happy. Moving on, let's talk about iPhones. Let's talk about the 15 and the 15 Plus for starters. Now, as the leak suggested, they both have rounded edges. They have USB Type-C, but at USB 2.0 speeds at 480 megabits per second, which is just insane. It's not 2005, it's 2023. Why is it at USB 2.0 speeds? I just don't understand. Oh, and speaking of USB Type-C, they also kind of announced on the side that AirPods Pro will be getting a USB-C charging case, and they will also be updating their AirPods, the wired ones, with a USB-C connector. The iPhone 15 and 15 Plus will also be getting the A16 Bionic. That's from the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max range of phones. And they'll also be inheriting the Dynamic Island, which is great because now the whole lineup of iPhones this year will have Dynamic Islands, so that will incentivize developers to develop for Dynamic Island, and we should see Dynamic Island being used to its full potential rather than it just being a bit of a gimmick like it has been for the last year. The camera is similar to the iPhone 14 Pro range of phones, but there are only two lenses, but you do get a 48 megapixel sensor, again from the 14 Pro Max, and you do get that feature where you can crop into the sensor and get a 2x zoom, which is really cool for the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. I think this is a solid upgrade. They actually added a lot. The A16 Bionic coming to an iPhone 15 and 15 Plus with the new camera system, 48 megapixels, rounded edges, and Dynamic Island and USB Type-C. I think the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus are solid this year. I really do think so. They come in 5 colors. There's pink, yellow, green, blue, and black. As predicted in my leaks video, I think I nailed that one. And of course, they both get emergency SOS and a new feature that Apple's added, which is roadside assist SOS via satellite, where if you break down, you can contact AAA in the States and get rescued. I wonder if that will come to the UK for the AA. We'll just have to wait and see about that. And honestly, there's not that much more to report about the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. They start at $799 in the US, and the 15 Plus starts at $899. And next up, we're talking about the iPhone 15 Pro models, but first I need to tell you about this video's sponsor, and that sponsor is Pro-Coustix. Pro-Coustix make amazing acoustic foam. As you can see behind me, we have acoustic foam. We have acoustic foam on the ceiling. We have acoustic bass traps in the corners. It is fantastic. There's no echo in here anymore, and I haven't even finished putting all of the foam on the walls. It sounds so much better than it used to, and I am filming a review and like a how-to guide and a before and after, so before foam, after foam, echo, no echo, that sort of thing. Pro-Coustix have been really good. If you work from home and you have Zoom calls or Teams meetings and your audio sucks and it's embarrassing because you have lots of sound reflection off your wall, give Pro-Coustix a call or go on their website in the description below and tell them I sent you and get yourself some acoustic foam. It's really easy to put up on the ceiling or the walls. You just stick it on, literally stick it on, and it's very simple. If I have a discount code, that will be in the video description as well. Pro-Coustix are awesome. Have a look, they're really good. I'm not just saying that. I was going to buy their stuff even before they sponsored these videos, so really good. I'm not joking. Go click it. So back to the 15 Pro and Pro Max. Again, the leaks were kind of spot on about everything with these phones, well, almost everything. They both used a brushed titanium frame, which is a grade 5 titanium alloy, which they used on the Mars rover apparently. I can confirm that for you personally once I get to Mars. And again, as the leak suggested, they have contoured edges, they're slightly shorter, they're slightly narrower, and they're slightly thicker. Is there anything about this event that wasn't leaked? It's really frustrating. Oh, and they have the slimmest bezels on an iPhone ever. In my leaks video, I said they'll have the slimmest bezels of any phone ever. No, it's of any iPhone ever. So there's that. Also, I did check the weight of these phones compared to the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. So the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max clock in at a grand total of 19 grams lighter than the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. But they are the lightest Pro iPhones Apple's ever made, which is kind of cool. They're the lightest and probably the toughest, by the sounds of it. They come in the standard 6.1 inch and 6.7 inch screen sizes, and they have 4 colors. The 4 colors are applied to the titanium using a special process which takes 14 hours. And those colors are black titanium, blue titanium, white titanium, and natural titanium. So basically 3 shades of gray and a blue. I honestly don't know which one I'm going for. Maybe I'll get the blue, but it just seems so boring. The natural titanium, surprisingly, looks quite nice. I like how it has old iPhone vibes to it. So maybe I'll go natural this year, I don't know. People online were calling that Titan Grey with all the leaks and everything, but this looks slightly different and I think it looks nicer. I'll think about it, I'll let you know. Also, there is no red iPhone 15 Pro Max, which makes me sad. Subscribe for my iPhone 15 Pro Max review. Coming soon. Fun fact, these iPhones are also more repairable now, but I'll let Lewis Rossman talk about that and we'll see what he says about it. What he says is basically gospel in terms of repairability, so I'll leave that to him and we'll see what he says. Another change is that there is no more mute switch. The mute switch has indeed been replaced with an action button. The implementation does look fine. You hold down the action button and you get haptic feedback telling you that your phone's on mute. You can also press it and assign different things to it, including Siri shortcuts, which means you can make the button do pretty much anything you want, which is kind of powerful, and I wasn't a big fan of it. Even during the event, I wasn't a big fan of it. But thinking about it for the last 4 hours, kind of becoming a fan of it. Of course, there is now USB Type-C on the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, but it's not thunderable at 40 gigabits per second as the leak suggested. It's USB 3 speeds at 10 gigabits per second, but that's fine because now you can attach a USB Type-C SSD to your iPhone and record directly to it. So if you're recording Apple ProRes at 4K 60, you can record directly to an external SSD. That is a great feature, which reminds me of my main camera here that I'm using in the studio to shoot these videos. I'm using the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II X. If you know what that is, great. Right now I'm recording to an external SSD via its USB-C port, and it's great. By the way, I record these videos in 6K OpenGate. If you know what that is, you know why that's cool. Another interesting thing about the 15 Pro and Pro Max is that the SoC that they're using is called the A17 Pro. They're not using the Bionic moniker anymore. So we had Fusion, then we had Bionic, and now we have Pro. And I do think that the change in naming is adequate because they've added some really cool features to this SoC, including hardware accelerated ray tracing. Ray tracing on a phone. Why? I mean, do that many people play? Evidently, many people do play games on their phones because it's the biggest gaming market. But still, hardware accelerated ray tracing on a phone? That's exciting for a few reasons. Number one, for people who game on their phone. Number two, if they've added hardware accelerated ray tracing to a processor that goes in a phone, you just know that's going to be in the M3 processor for the new MacBooks. And once hardware accelerated ray tracing is on like the whole lineup of Apple Silicon, that's going to be very interesting to see what the developers do with that. It's going to be great. This could be a really big deal in the future. The A17 Pro is also an industry first 3nm processor. Again, the leaks were right. Nothing is secret these days. And one more feature that they added to this A17 Pro is an AV1 decoder. If you know what that is, you know why it's a big deal, and it's a huge deal for streamers. AV1 is going to be huge in these coming months and coming years, and it's going to be the preferred standard for most online video content. So them adding it to their phone now just shows Apple's commitment to AV1, which is great. Obviously, the A17 Pro is Apple's most powerful processor that they've ever put in a phone. Honestly, it's the most powerful processor in any phone ever. They're so far ahead of the competition that this isn't even a competition anymore. Emotional, damn it! Now moving on to the 15 Pro cameras. Again, we have the 48 megapixel sensor that we saw on the 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. And the photonic engine in the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max allows you to use that 48 megapixel sensor to shoot at a different range of focal lengths. So you have like 35mm, 24mm. So you have the equivalent of 7 different focal lengths, which is really cool and very pro. Apple is also saying that this camera system for the 15 Pro and Pro Max is twice as good as the previous generation in low light, which is great. And of course, the elephant in the room. There is now no more parity between the Pro models of iPhones. There was a time when there was no parity. Parity meaning that the feature set of the Pro and Pro Max is the same. And then there was parity where everything was the same, and now there isn't. So the 15 Pro standard gets a normal wide angle, ultra wide, and zoom, which is a 3x zoom, and Pro Max gets an ultra wide, wide, and a 5x zoom, which is a periscope zoom, but it's not really a periscope. People keep calling it a periscope zoom. Even I called it a periscope zoom in the notes that I posted, but when I was reading up on it, it's not actually a periscope zoom. It's different. It's actually something called a tetraprism, and the light bounces 4 times to get to the sensor, and the sensor isn't perpendicular to the lens, it's actually facing the same way as the lens. So they're bouncing the light this way and then into a sensor, which is very cool and very different to how the competition does it. And saying that, they also announced another technology which builds on sensor shift, where the sensor moves around to stabilize your video. But this is like a 3D sensor shift, where it doesn't just move left and right and up and down, it moves left, right, up, down, and in and out, which is really cool, and that's very different. And again, it's very Apple. It's like they didn't even make a big deal out of it. But when you look at the technology that they've introduced in this lineup of Pro models, there is a lot going on here, and it's really impressive. Another really big announcement was spatial video. So you can now turn your phone sideways and use the wide angle and ultra wide angle to film 3D video. They're calling it spatial video. It's basically 3D video. And the whole point of this is that you can share this 3D video with Vision Pro users, or watch it on your own Vision Pro, and you can relive these moments in spatial video. So it's like 3D video, and you can relive it with your Vision Pro, which is really cool. So now you don't have to go around filming with your Vision Pro like a weirdo. You can film with your iPhone and then relive those moments or share those moments in spatial video with your friends, who are obviously ballers because they spent £3,500 on a headset. Oh, by the way, spatial video is coming later this year. It's not going to be out immediately. And wrapping up the 15 Pro and Pro Max, pre-orders go live this Friday. So that's Friday the 15th. They both launch on Friday the 22nd of September, which is next Friday. The 15 Pro Max isn't delayed as we thought it might be. And the 15 Pro launches at $999. There is no price hike there. and it's 128 gigabytes. I don't know why in 2023 we still have 128 gigabytes as an option. It should be 256 and larger, I think. And the 15 Pro Max does have a price hike, but it's not really a price hike. The 15 Pro Max starts at $11.99 in the US, but that's the 256 gig model. There is no longer a 128 gig model on the 15 Pro Max. So if you look at the price of the 14 Pro Max for 256 gigs, it was the same price. So it is a price hike, because the bottom tier of 128 gigs isn't there anymore for the 15 Pro Max, but you are getting 256 gigabytes for the same price as what it was last year, so it's not really a price hike. And finally, we get to the biggest surprise and the biggest announcement in my opinion, and this is for me personally. I use iCloud a lot and I back up all my videos on there, and like everything is on iCloud. And the thing is, Apple only offer 2 terabytes, right? And I'm 100 gigabytes away from being full, and I've been pleading for more storage space on iCloud, and I could never understand why Apple doesn't offer more than 2 terabytes. They just announced that there's 2 new tiers coming to iCloud, 6 terabytes and 12 terabytes. I screamed. I legit screamed when they said this. I couldn't believe it. I screamed as loud as I did when I was on the toilet the other day and a giant house spider crawled up my leg. That is not a lie. I couldn't sleep afterwards. I was awake all night and my heart was racing. It was messed up. But anyways, 6 terabytes and 12 terabytes coming to iCloud. I cannot believe it. Oh man, I'm so happy about that. You have no idea how happy I am about that. I really needed that. So yeah, that's my Apple Wonderlust event coverage. It is now almost 1 a.m. and now I'm going to be up all night editing this video and there's no more Starfield. I'm never going to get to play this game, seriously. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video and found it informative, please give it a like and do consider subscribing if you haven't already. You've been watching This Brown Geek. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.